Hey guys, what's up? It's me, P-Boy25 here, and today I am bringing you another video. I am sorry for my 2 week long absence as of late. I'm very sorry for that. I was procrastinating and dealing with comments the previous week, and I was preparing for a little vacation because from the 18th all the way up to, I believe, yesterday, the 24th or the 25th of June, I was very busy. I left for Cincinnati the 18th, went to Kings Island the 19th, so you have content for that now. You're welcome. Got back 20th and then worked 5 days straight. So, yeah. It was just, it was quite hectic the past week, and I didn't have that much time to upload, but now I'm bringing you my first ever, official content. Instead of just a synopsis video, this is my first ever coaster-related content on Valleyfair, on my Minneapolis trip that I had just 3 weeks ago. Which is funny because I got about another 3 weeks to go until I leave for California. Which that will bring you about, I don't know, probably a bulk about 25 videos or something. So yeah, it's going to be a lot. And this content out of the way, let's just go right down into this countdown. Number 8 is Cosmic Coaster. Now, I did not ride Cosmic Coaster, but it's a safe bet to say it's the worst in the park. If not, I almost always rank the kiddie coasters on the bottom of the list. I mean, really, I really only put them on the list just to reinstate that they exist in the park. Because sometimes, the park claims that they have 15 kiddie coasters, but there's only 12 credits you want to go and ride, or 15 coasters there's 12 credits you can go ride. There's 3 of them are kiddie coasters, or one of them it's a Six Flags park, one of them is a Super Loop, and 2 of them are a kiddie coaster. Or one of them's a separate VR coaster, or something stupid like that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I'm just putting Cosmic Coaster on here to reinstate that it exists. I feel like that with this park, there might be a rare example where a kiddie coaster might be better than some of the lower rides, but due to the small size of it, don't know if that's possible. Like over Georgia, before Ninja was transformed to Blue Hawk, I feel like Joker Funhouse Coaster, formerly known as Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner Express, was better than Ninja, and it actually had size to it. But enough on that. Let's go right into the actual coasters. We're just putting this here to reinstate that it exists. Number 7 is Corkscrew. Now, unimaginative, old, aero looper. It's a rickety, and it gives me a headache. I didn't necessarily get a pounding, really bad headache from it, but really, I did not enjoy this thing at all. It's just like every other aero looper. You bank out of the station, go up a lift hill, go down a drop, and into a loop, and into an airtime hill because it doesn't have a second loop, and then you bank right. No mid-course brake run, I should say. I don't believe there's a mid-course brake run. And then you go into the corkscrews, and then after this, there's just an extra helix. There's just the helix. Then you go up the helix and into a brake run. That's it. That's the ride. It's completely unimaginative. It's very similar to the corkscrew at Cedar Point. Yes, it is the same name, Cedar Fair, and just unimaginative naming. And there's really barely a difference in age, and the ride is just rough, slow, unenjoyable. Like the ride's pacing is not exactly the best. You can hit some high speeds at the bottom of the drop, and then just everything's just you're moving slow. It's like pulsing back and forth in the speed. Like this thing's just not enjoyable. I mean, my brother even skipped out in those credits, stating that it would be terrible. I mean, this one isn't the roughest aero looper. It was pretty bad, but I think Corkscrew Cedar Point's worse because this one is not as ejector forceful in the airtime hill. This aero doing airtime hills, unless it's their hyper coasters, is a bad idea. Aero looper with an airtime hill is a bad idea. I'll tell you right out. Now, number 6 is Excalibur. Another arrow. What a shocker. Just this time, it's without inversions and with an actual half-decent layout. I mean, the only thing that sets this apart from Corkscrew are the presence and a couple of good airtime moments, I'd say. There's a really good airtime moment in the mid-ride. It's just, the problem with this is that this is an uncomfortable ride experience. You are shaking, violently tremoring, you're being thrown around. The transitions are not smooth at all. This is something you'd expect out of just an old arrow. This is something you'd expect. It's basically just a high-speed mine train. You take the transitions of a mine train, or at least a bad mine train, like Adventure Express or Dalanega, and then you bump up the speed by another 20 miles an hour and make it a more aggressive layout. The airtime's really good in this thing. Don't get me wrong. There's some good airtime in a couple spots. It's just really uncomfortable. And if this thing's rumored to go at the end of the year, I would not miss it. This thing, honestly, if this gets replaced by a water park expansion, yes, there'll be -1 credit. Yes, there'll be another invalid credit that I cannot rank definitively. And yes, it'll be my first and only ride, but at least they'll have some land to the right of the marsh that they're expanding into for a new coaster. Want to see a good B&M invert here. An invert would suit this park very nicely. So, and we'll make another rumor video on that when we get closer to that date. So, yeah. Number 5 is High Roller. Now, this is a manufacturer you've never heard of. It's a manufacturer called Rauerhorst. Makes you think this was actually built in-house. This is an old but surprisingly popular wooden coaster. High Roller. Like, this thing had the longest line that I waited in. The park, everything else was a station wait, but this thing was actually a good 15-minute wait. That and the operations were kind of bad on this. People were just boarding the train when you got into the station. If you see my synopsis video on Valleyfair, I'll tell you about the operations. They're really weird. Now, I would not recommend this to anyone who wants to ride a good wooden coaster. It's got this old wooden coaster mentality, just like Thunderbolt, but only 30 years newer. It shakes, vibrates, shifts, and just crunches into the track. A good wooden coaster knows how to manage a drop and keep the gravitational forces perfectly good. This one just crunches. You're crunching at the bottom of the top, and you're thrusting instead of going. You don't have negative G's, you have negative forward G's on the airtime hills. Like, the physics on this are just wrong. It's just not comfortable, and I was just shaking the whole ride. The best part was either the lift hill or just the bank turns. Once I saw people going through that final airtime hill right next to the queue, and people's heads were getting whiplashed, I did not have a good feeling about this ride, and I was right. And it was my second to last ride of the day, so yeah, it was not good. I was not a fan of this ride. It just, everything about it was uncomfortable. I mean, the GP still love this thing. It's a good family coaster. It's located right in Planet Snoopy, so it's the big challenge of Planet Snoopy. But still, I'm not sure why people like this thing that much. Number 4 is Mad Mouse. Yes, we have Wild Mouse beating out 3 original rides, or at least a semi-original looper, somewhat, an original Arrow thingamabob that sucks and is going to get removed, and an original out and back wooden coaster from a manufacturer you've never heard of. So yeah, I think I'd rather take an Arrow Wild Mouse at this point, because I was actually having really bad expectations for this Wild Mouse here, but this actually surprised me. I was expecting Mad Mouse to be like worse than High Roller, or worse than Excalibur, but I actually really like this Wild Mouse. It's not my favorite. My favorite is still some of the more modern Mack Wild Mice, like the Wild Mouse at Hershey Park. Dark Knight has the best Wild Mouse. If it was outside, it'd be the best Wild Mouse I've ever been on. But this one was still pretty good. And what I like about this one is that the second half of the ride, instead of there just being tiny dips and tiny curves, it's actually just 2 giant drops. The second half, you can tell manufacturers of Wild Mice apart by not only the trains, but you can also tell by the second half of the ride. The first half is always switchbacks. Then you go straight, pop over an airtime hill, usually turn left or right 180 degrees, and then that's where the differences start. Most of the time, it's just a large drop straight down, and then you come back up. Sometimes it's just a drop and then a pop of airtime, and a drop and a pop of airtime, or then you turn around. That's where a lot of Wild Mice differ, as the second half, and this one is different. And I mean, this is actually maybe the best Arrow I've ever ridden, second to Magnum. Sad if you think about it. I haven't been on Tennessee Tornado, arguably one of the best Arrow coasters around, but honestly, with the excluding manufacturers, it's the same old Wild Mouse shenanigans, with only the slight differences I mentioned beforehand. Just watch an off-ride and you'll see the differences. Although, I mean, little weird confession about myself, I actually kind of like seeing Wild Mice run if there's 5 of them on the circuit at once. Unfortunately, that's not the case with this one. I was just frustrated waiting in the line. They should have been a lot shorter. And also, this ride is the first one in the list that wasn't complete garbage. And now we're leaving the mediocrity to go into actual good rides. Number 3 is Steel Venom. Yeah, we have 5 coasters in, and we got a good coaster in the upper half of my list. Now, I have 115 rankable coasters right now. This thing is probably in the low 40, or high 40s. I mean, it's another Intamin Impulse coaster. It's no different than the other one. It's no different than the one at my home park, V2, with the exception of a quote-unquote holding brake on the back spike. I put it in quotes because the ride only merely taps the brakes rather than holds you there. At that point, I'll just call it a trim, honestly. What you do, you're up the back spike, and the second time around, you feel the brakes pulse. You fall forward into your seat a little bit, and then you fall. It was uncomfortable. You weren't suspended there. It was it wasn't even a second that the brakes were active. Like, it wasn't a holding brake, it was just a trim brake. It just tapped you there. I personally think it would have been better if you just let the negative G's kick in on that back spike. I don't know. I don't know why it's there. Maybe it is probably a trim brake. It wasn't even a holding brake because it didn't hold you there. It was just go up, boop, hold you there for a second. You fall forward due to gravity coming back, and then you go back into your seat when you fall down. It's the difference between just and then I don't know. I'm trying to explain this without terms I'm familiar with, so I'm just sounding really dumb right now. Let's just move on from this thing. And now we actually get to the top 30 of my list. We're going to go into Wild Thing. Now, this Morgan Hypercoaster is the second worst hypercoaster I've ever ridden, though it still cracks top 30. And honestly, Magnum's the only worst hyper I've been on this. Like, this is actually a disappointing ride. I had expectations for this Morgan Hyper, but honestly, it just did nothing but go fast, do some turns, be relatively smooth, and attempt to give airtime. Now, the first airtime hill, after the first drop, if you're in the front row, you get some decent airtime. Unfortunately, the bunny hills, after the completely slow you down brake run, like the brake run just smashes you to a halt. Like after that brake run, the bunny hills give you pretty much no airtime. You're just in your seat, and you're barely coming out of it. It's just you just feel the forces a little bit, but you don't come out of your seat. It's not good airtime. And I've been in the front and the back. I will just say the front's better because of the airtime. I mean, the ride's not bad by any means. I like how it goes fast. I like how it's pretty smooth. I like how it's got a decent layout for a Morgan Hyper, and it uses the park's layout pretty nicely. It's nowhere near the caliber of the B&M Hyper. Like, Morgan, this is my first Morgan Hyper, and let me just say, if Mamba and Steel Force are anything like this, I'm honestly not going to be that happy about it. So, yeah. I'm not exactly too keen on this thing. Still a fun ride, though. I'd probably ride it every time I was there if Valleyfair was my home park, God forbid. And number 1 is Renegade. Now, this is actually a first for me. A park with mostly steel coasters, or just a park in general, with my first place coaster being a wooden coaster. You've never heard of that from me. You've known me as just a historical steel coaster lover. I love steel coasters with my heart to content. But this one actually blew my expectations out of the water. I loved this ride. Considering as a station weight, we got front row in 1 train. You got back row in like 2 trains because the park started getting more influx to the back due to Excalibur and the water park opening. I love everything about it. The S drop was amazing. The pace, the airtime, the forces. This thing was incredible. And it's pretty smooth as well. I will admit the back row wasn't the best, but the front row was absolutely amazing. I love this thing in the back row. And just the difference between this thing and Wild Thing is a power of 10. Like, this thing is probably 10 times better than Wild Thing. I wanted to ride this again. I rode this twice back to back, waiting for Excalibur to open. It opened late, went to Mad Mouse, went to get a drink, and it was open. But you can hear that in my synopsis video. So, yeah. That is my top 8 coasters at Valleyfair. We have Cosmic Coaster, Corkscrew, Excalibur, High Roller, Mad Mouse, Steel Venom, Wild Thing, and number 1 being Renegade. So yeah, that's my top 8 coasters at Valleyfair. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to leave a like, comment, or subscription. I hope you guys have a great insert unit of time here. And